Yesterday, this man, Craig Hendry, was booked into jail for something that you probably thought would only happen in a dystopian fictional novel, such as George Orwell's 1984. He told a story that the government deemed to be untrue. 1984 is supposedly a fictional story about a man named Winston Smith who rebels against a totalitarian government led by Big Brother in a society where surveillance, thought control, and manipulation of truth are pervasive. In this fictional novel, there's a branch of government called the Ministry of Truth. In the story, this branch of government claims to be the only source of truth, protecting the people from all the deceit and lies in the world. In reality, it does the exact opposite, and its main job is to manipulate facts, disseminate lies, and create alternative versions of reality through projects like altering records and introducing the new language. The ministry's slogans are "War is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength." But this real-life story about Craig Hendry seems eerily similar to something out of the fictional novel 1984, where Craig Hendry has been imprisoned for telling a story in which the government disputes some of the facts.
In this case, I showed up to a city council meeting in Linton, Indiana, and I spoke about the cops. I said that they kicked my door in July 2022, that they were armed thugs, that they kidnapped me and held me in a steel cage against my will for 45 days. And they said that I lied about it.
I represent a faction of people in the city of Linton that are oftentimes not heard, but are still real people nonetheless. They have families and loved ones. I'm here to speak about what's written on the side of our police cruisers here in town, that is to protect and serve. On July 26, 2022, in Linton, Indiana, armed thugs showed up at my home when I was not there. They kicked in the door and searched my house looking for me. Not having any luck when they couldn't locate me, they left. Shortly after I returned home around midnight that night, the aggressors returned as well. They banged loudly on my door and demanded that I allow them entry. They threatened to break into my home if I did not comply with their demands. When I opened the door, I was kidnapped by them and hauled to a concrete cage where they kept me against my will for a period of 45 days. Who are these disrespectful thugs that did this to me, my family, and our property, you may ask? It was none other than the Linton Police Department. They told me the reason that they did this, the reason that they were protecting and serving the absolute crap out of me on this particular occasion, was because I had sold cannabis, a plant that grows from the ground, to consenting adults almost a year earlier. The Linton PD's actions demonstrate the extreme need to abolish this entire department. Right? When the local police are not wandering around aimlessly, spending taxpayer dollars on gas, creating wear and tear on the vehicles that we've paid for, and all the while collecting a generous salary at the expense of the taxpayers, when they are not doing this, it seems they are dead set on terrorizing those of the community that seem to be undesirable to them. Of course, we know that the Linton City Council won't abolish these useless and dangerous tax leeches because they seem to fall into that same category. But to the council members' benefit, they don't personally go out and extort the community through traffic tickets or terrorize them under the color of law. But to the council members' detriment, nobody has advocated that we rid ourselves of this poison that uses taxpayer money to harass taxpayers. In closing this, I will quote the great Thomas Jefferson. He said, quote, "Fellow citizens, a wise and frugal government which shall restrain men from injuring one another shall leave them otherwise free to regulate their own affairs." Sorry, let me get this right. Their own pursuits of industry and improvement, and shall not take from the mouth of labor the bread it has earned. This is the sum of good government, unquote. We can see that in Jefferson's estimation,
Linton has become a bad government, as it is hard to conceive how their actions of destroying my property, kidnapping me and taking me from my family, and holding me in a concrete cage against my will was geared towards preventing me from injuring another.
To the contrary, this attack on me at the hands of the city of Linton was geared towards injuring me, my reputation, my family's sustenance, but most importantly, it was geared towards depriving me of my liberty, a crime that is unforgivable at best. But in days past, the penalties for taking a man's liberty have risen to the level of death, and I think that shouldn't be forgotten. So with that, the whole purpose of that is I ask that you abolish this terrorist organization that is sponsored by the taxpayers of Linton, Indiana. If there's any questions or comments, I'd be happy to take them at this time.
Following this address to the council, Police Chief Paul Clark obtained a warrant to arrest Craig Hendry for false reporting, false informing. Many parts of this statute seem pretty reasonable, essentially saying you can't make false police reports. But many parts seem dangerous, including this part that says it's illegal to make a misconduct complaint against an officer if you know that complaint to be false. While in writing it seems reasonable, that means that all they have to do is clear themselves of any wrongdoing on a complaint you made on an officer, and now they can charge you criminally for making the complaint. This statute would definitely deter me from ever making a complaint on any police officer in Indiana for fear that they might retaliate against me with criminal charges. This is the other part of the statute that I find disturbing. It's illegal to make a false report that a person is dangerous. I personally know it to be a matter of fact that every single law enforcement officer is dangerous, because I've personally seen that they're willing to use any amount of force and violence necessary to enforce any rules or laws put on the books, even if those rules and laws are unlawful. I have evidence through R.J. Rummel that the number one murderers in the world are governments. Evidence that in the 20th century you're more likely to be murdered by agents of your own government than by all private criminals and foreign troops combined, including in war. Let me say that again. You are more likely to be murdered by enforcers of your own government than by foreign soldiers in a war, or any other human on the planet for that matter. And the argument that these governments have made their actions legal does not change the fact that they are dangerous. So this statute says it's illegal to falsely claim that someone is dangerous, but the people who decide whether your claim was true or false is your own government. You know, factually, the most dangerous people on the face of the earth in the 20th century. Yeah, they'll decide who is or isn't dangerous, and if you get it wrong, you're going to jail. In his address, Craig referred to the police as useless and dangerous tax leeches.
Of course, we know that the Linton City Council won't abolish these useless and dangerous tax leeches.
So Chief Paul Clark found a statute that said that he could imprison Craig Hendry again for telling a story to City Council in which he disputes the facts. It appears that the chief has declared himself the Ministry of Truth in Linton, Indiana, and decided that Craig should be locked up for telling a story that he disagrees with. Now, I'm not entirely clear on exactly what part of Craig's speech he's being imprisoned for. Whether it's that he claimed the police are dangerous and they claim they're not. I've also heard that the chief disputes that his officers never actually kicked in Craig's door. I know that there's always more than one side to a story, so I did my best to get Linton, Indiana's side. They haven't gotten back to me yet. I also asked where the body cam footage was proving that the police didn't kick in Craig's door.
Police department, records, how may I help you?
What we were looking for is body cam footage of a local individual there. Craig Hendry claims that the police did something. The police claim that he didn't, and we were looking for proof one way or another through body cam footage.
So this would be something that the chief of police would handle.
Has that body cam footage been released? It's just that we're only hearing one side from Craig Hendry.
We don't release body cam footage.
You don't release body cam footage at all?
No.
I see. Okay.
So I will send you to the voicemail.
So the public will never get to see what you did?
You can speak to the chief in regards to this. I will send you to his voicemail.
On December 3rd, 2025, Craig Hendry was convicted by a jury of voters of false reporting, false informing. The Ministry of Truth has spoken through its faithful, indoctrinated subjects, and Craig Hendry now sits in jail awaiting sentencing. Maybe someday Craig Hendry will pull his head out of his ass and learn. War is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. Now he'll have plenty of time to sit in jail and think about his actions. Maybe next time he'll make the right decision and ask the government for their approval of his story before he tells it.